Good morning, Living Vine. It's great to see you today. Uh, I remember as a kid when I would go out and play on summer days. What I found was this: we would get into so much just stupid trouble, right? Just we would think that our brains were not developed as young boys, and we would do things that probably weren't the smartest things to do. And I wasn't usually the one that got hurt. There was a group of us, right? There's a group of us that would do things, but other kids got hurt. And what I realized in hindsight, as I look back in my life as a kid, I was always the one that was sent. I was always the one. So I remember Chuck Ellsworth, like this guy, older guy. He's probably 5, 7 years older than me. He was in our tree and he fell out of the tree. He's probably maybe 15 at the time, or 12 at the 13 at the time maybe, and I was like probably like 10 or 8, like. And when he fell, he broke his arm. So I was the one that was sent to go get his mom. I had to go tell her exactly what happened as she was coming. So I went and got Brenda. I remember when Trevor, my best buddy, when growing up, he fell and scraped up his knees and elbow when he was riding his bike. I had to go get Janice, his mom. Um, and then also, like, another one of my best buddies, John Holtby, when he got in a moped wreck once, where he kind of turned his head and fell and got, anyways, and I ran to go get his mom. And I used to think it was because I was the fastest, perhaps the smartest, perhaps I was the one who could communicate the best to the parents. Now I realize I was the stupidest one. I was the sucker who was sent to go tell a mom that her son had done something stupid. And over, I was the one that had to, like, be the buffer of the fury of a mom, right? Coming, and I got the brunt end. As I remember, I'm getting lectured for their stupidity on the way to get to their kid. There's anxiety, there's fear. You do not want to get in the way of a mother when she is angry and has a kid that's hurt. Like, those are the two things. You just get out of the way, right? Well, I learned later in life, I think. So I'm not going to be the one that's sent, though. But I remember this. I remember that I was always the one that was sent. I was always the one that was sent to the moms or dads, but most of the time moms, to go and communicate a particular message to a particular person. I was sent. So I was sent, and I had a particular mission from my group. It was to deliver a particular message to a particular person. I was the sent one. I was the apostle of our ragtag group of buddies. I want to read a text that's familiar. We looked at it a little bit last week, but a text from John chapter 20. And in John chapter 20, beginning in verse 19, and we're going to read from 19 to 23. So if you have Bibles, you can pull those out. I'm going to be reading from the NIV version. And when I read this text, what I'd love for you to do is listen for some of the wording of Jesus in this text. It's not a lot of verses, but there's some really important words around sent that I want to highlight in our sermon today. John chapter 20, beginning in verse 19, it says this: On the evening on that first day of the week, when the disciples were together, with the doors locked for fear of the Jews, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." After he said this, he showed them his hands and his side. The disciples were overjoyed when they saw the Lord. Again, Jesus said, "Peace be with you. As the Father, or just as the Father, has sent me, so I am sending you." And with that, he breathed on them and said, "Receive the Holy Spirit. If you forgive anyone his sins or their sins, they are forgiven. If you retain the sins or do not forgive anyone, they are not forgiven." This text, which is right on the heels, literally, when Jesus is resurrected, he comes and he sees his disciples, and some of the first things he says to them basically is peace, first of all, shalom, peace. And then, after they realize that he is a resurrected Christ, immediately he commissions them and sends them as ones who are apostles sent. I want you to do this. I'm there, I'm not there, but I'm there, and I'm going to find out if you do it or not. So what I'd like you to say is this. I would like you to say, I am a sent one, you are a sent one, we are sent by God. I want you to say this. I am a sent one, you are a sent one, we are sent by God. So let's do it together. Ready? We're going to say it together. I am a sent one. And then I want you to point to somebody else. Yeah, point at them. Point at them. I know there's four fingers back at you. I know, but just point with one finger. You are a sent one. And then we are sent by God. One more time. And point to yourself. I am a sent one. And then point to somebody else. You are a sent one. Do it. I know. I'm watching. We are sent by God. Often in this book of John, which we've been going through this year, God is known by Jesus when he refers to him as the one sending Jesus. Jesus just refers to the Father as the one who sent me. The one who sent me. Over 40 times, the one who sent me. This sending God who in the Trinity, Father, Son, and Spirit, out of deep love and concern for the world, sent his one and only Son, John 3:16, that whosoever believes in him would not perish but have life forever. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn it, but to save it. This sending God, this sending one, this Jesus who was sent to communicate the love and grace of God. The one that brings about the peace of God and the one that can forgive sins. This is the very same message that he actually, as he is a resurrected Christ, calls his disciples, his apostles, the sent ones, to proclaim. And not just to them, but to us as well. Just as the Father has sent me, just as the Father has sent me, so I also send you, is what Jesus says. Those are profound words. You mean in the same way that Jesus entered the world, that we are called to incarnationally live in the world that way? Yes. Sent. The one who sent the Son, and the Son who sends us by the power of the Holy Spirit, is the same one who sends us into the same world, the same messed up world, just as, in the same way, similar to, in the same way the Son was sent. You and I are sent. We're apostles. We're sent ones. The Father sent the Son. John 1 tells us that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was with God in the beginning. All things were created by him. But even though, and he communicates this, that even though the world was created through him, it did not recognize him. He was sent to that which was his own, but his own did not receive him. The text tells us that even though there was rejection, that Jesus, the Word, dwelt among them, lived among, day to day, moment by moment, came near, incarnated within humanity. And Jesus says, in the same way, just as the Father has sent me, now I send you. Here's the Holy Spirit as he breathes on him. Referring back to Genesis 1, when the breath of life, the ruach of life, was given to humanity, and they came alive. In the same way, there's a second life that's breathed into you and I as the Spirit, the wind of the Spirit comes and blows. and animates us, you and I, to be sent ones in this world. This text says this. Jesus says, just as the Father has sent me. That sent, the first verb of sent, is in a present tense. It may mean nothing to you. It's fine. It's Greek stuff. But what it means is this. It means that it is an event that's happened and completed, but has continuous effects. Jesus' sending in the world is something that is complete. When Jesus died and resurrected, there's completion of the mission of God, and his sending was complete. That verb is in that tense. Completed, but having continuous effects forever. That's the perfect tense. But he doesn't say just that the Father sent him. He said, I am sending you. Just as the Father has sent me, present tense, done, completed with continuous effect forever, so I am sending you. Different verb tense. That verb, our sending, is present tense, meaning it is a continual action, that it is done through the apostles and through the next set of Christians that spread the gospel, and then throughout, in a ripple effect throughout the entire world, that we are part of a ripple effect that began at this upper room and will continue until the return of Christ. I am a sent one. You are a sent one. We are sent by God. Let's say it again. Point to yourself. I am a sent one. You are a sent one. We are sent by God. You're apostles. That's what apostles mean. That he has sent us. Whether it's across the street or around the world, it is still a sending God who sends you and I on a mission to communicate the peace of God and the forgiveness of sins. That's what this text highlights and focuses on. I'm a sent one. You are a sent one. We are sent by God. Jesus meets us and meets them in a real place. And that ripple effect has gone on and continued throughout the history of the world since that time. I was thinking about what it's like, and I was thinking about sometimes when I was a kid, we used to throw rocks in a pond. That's one thing. That's a ripple effect that goes. But then I was thinking about other things, and a game that my family likes to play is dominoes. Now, dominoes, when you play it maybe as a game, it's, Mexican trained dominoes, I think is what one title is called. And dominoes that you put them up together and you lay them down like this. That's the game of dominoes. But when we talk about dominoes, there's other parts of dominoes. And dominoes, if you've ever seen them lined up, you've seen maybe some great videos of lined up dominoes that are all the way like woven throughout all these intricate things where they divide and come back together, and then when they fall, they might even make a pattern. I mean, there's some intricate stuff. And the way in which a domino can begin in one space and come all the way, and it comes all the way across, and they begin to fall, and that this domino affects that domino and that domino. And there's a domino effect, a ripple effect that moves throughout. It's a beautiful sight. And in the same way as dominoes or ripple effects happen in water, so too did this event, this one event that happened, that changed the world by Jesus' resurrection. And now, because of the peace of God, because of the forgiveness of sins that is complete in the person who is Jesus, now he, in the power of the Spirit, has sent us. I am a sent one. You are a sent one. We are sent by God. Today, know that as you leave this place, the mission field begins. As you walk out the door, whether it's across the street or around the world, there is one mission of God, and it is to communicate the gospel of Jesus Christ in word and deed. It's all connected. And you and I are bound up in a ripple effect that began at the resurrection of Jesus and will continue until his time of return. And this is something we have deep hope in. I pray today, I pray even as you hear this sermon and as I'm preaching it early, that you would know, that I would know, that we are sent. We are sent ones. And that because of that, we have an important mission to be part of in Jesus' communication of peace and the forgiveness of sins around the world. You and I are part of a domino. We're part of it. And it is the greatest gift of our life to be part of something that God is up to in this world. I wonder how particularly you might express that, how you might be part of that with your life this week in communicating the gospel, the good news of Jesus, peace and the forgiveness of sins in the spheres in the world that you live. I'm excited to hear more about what this will look like. I hope to hear stories when I get back the next week about the way in which we would hear God's stories, the way in which we as dominoes, together, influenced by those who are in front of us, would live our lives in such a way as to pass this on to the next generation. This truth, the peace of God, the forgiveness of sins. You and I are apostles. I am a sent one. You are a sent one. We're all sent by God to the glory of God.